Well, hello there, my beautiful friends. Today we are going to be doing a 3 looks 1 palette video on my collaboration with Clionadh Cosmetics using the Dragon Fruit palette. So if you are interested in seeing the looks, then go ahead and keep on watching and let's jump right on in. So just to preface this video, the Dragon Fruit collection comes out tomorrow, so April 27th. At 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is also my birthday tomorrow, so it's going to be a very eventful and exciting day for me. Honestly, can't believe the launch day is finally here. It's absolutely surreal. But for today's video, we are doing 3 looks 1 palette, so I have put together 3 tutorials utilizing different color stories in the Dragon Fruit palette. Alright guys, let's go ahead and get started with this tutorial. So this is the first tutorial of the 3 looks 1 palette video. So we're gonna hop into Refresh, which is that super beautiful, like kind of mid-toned baby pink that has a cool icy reflect. It's a metallic formula. It is so gorgeous, and I'm actually going to use it in the crease. Even though it's a metallic formula, you'll see when I buff it out, it definitely loses a bit of the metallicness, so you can use it as a metallic on the lid if you want something kind of icy and bright, or you can buff it out with a nice blender brush, and it becomes like very, very satin-like and almost like a matte, but not quite. It just gives a little bit of a sheen. So let's go ahead and pop this right into the crease. I'm not going to go too high up, just right into where my natural crease is. I used to go like all the way up and try and create a fake crease like up here more towards my brow, just because back in the day I used to not really be happy with the shape of my eyelids. I thought I needed more lid space, but I've kind of grown to appreciate what I got going on here. I mean, it works for me. I don't have a whole lot of lid space to apply shadow, but I've learned to work with it. I mean, everyone's eye shapes are different. And I'm winging the shape out just a little bit because I'm going to go with kind of a winged shape. I always go with a winged shape unless I'm like strategically going for like a blocky kind of funky look, if you will. My typical look that I go for is something that ends up winged out. I just like that shape. I think I forgot to mention the brush that I used for this, but I'm using my DF03 brush from the Clionadh collab with myself, and it's like a really beautiful kind of flat paddle brush. It's a little bit fluffy at the ends. I love it for placing down an initial color in the crease and then blending it out a little bit. But I'm going to blend out the crease here with my Clionadh Cosmetics DF02 brush, which is like a flat kind of domed brush, but it's still longer in the actual bristles. The bristles are kind of long, so you can kind of blend and not really worry about blending away too much color, which I love. So I'm just going to go in and start to blend. So I'm taking my DF03 brush. This is a clean one, but you can just wipe off the brush that you used before. And I'm just gonna place Sweetened, which is that gorgeous velvet satin, like berry magenta color. It's like a raspberry sorbet type of color. It's one of my favorites in the palette, but I'm just gonna tuck this a little bit lower than I initially placed down Refresh. It's still gonna go in the crease, but I'm just gonna tuck it a smidge lower. So just right underneath. And the velvet satin formula is super beautiful. The more you blend it, kind of like with Refresh, the more you blend it, the more matte it gets, but it really does perform just perfectly. It's like so incredibly smooth and just buttery, and it just blends like just an absolute dream. I mean, like, I'll take a brush right now and just blend it out, and you'll see how amazing this blends. So this is my DF01 from the collab. And it's like a longer kind of flexible fluffy brush. It's a little bit domed, so you can really get into the crease. More of a detail brush. Honestly, all of the brushes in this collection are more detail brushes, and that's because I have a hard time finding brushes that really work in my crease. Like I said, I have a kind of weird shaped eyelid, and these are perfect for just getting right into the crease and blending things without blending them up too high. I'm still able to like achieve definition between where my brow bone is and where my lid and kind of crease area is. I used to take shadows and like blend them all the way up just because I bought brushes that were too big, and I would go a little bit too wild with my technique at the time because, you know, we were all kind of experimenting with makeup back in like 2018, 2019, back when the beauty community was really, really going strong and everybody was going for like really bright looks. I would really overblend my makeup and it just wasn't super flattering on me. So detail brushes are very, very, very important for how I do my makeup now and how I initially started out doing my makeup. Here is Sweetened all blended out. I hope you guys saw how quickly and easily the Velvet Satin Formula blended, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about it being more matte. When I first applied it, it was definitely more kind of reflective, and now that I've blended it, it's softened a bit and become much more of like a satin matte formula, but it's just so incredibly easy to use. On my DF04 brush, I'm going to be just taking a little bit of my concealer and just carving just ever so slightly underneath of where I placed down Sweetened and Refresh, just to kind of cut the crease just a little tiny bit. You'll see I'm not going to go all the way. I'm just going to basically cut just right like on the inner third and just leave it at that. And now on my DF03, I have some Cactaceae, and I'm just going to apply it right onto the lid, just kind of on the inner third. And I'm just applying some Cactaceae down over top of where I just placed the concealer. And I'm gonna stop just right before I get to the halfway point of my lid, so like right about here. And now with Dragantini, I'm just taking it and popping it just right on the middle of the lid, just to give a bit of a sheen, just like so. And I actually switched to my DF04 brush just to get a bit more precision because I was being a little messy with my finger. So just right in the middle. And I did wet my brush before going in with Dragantini and with Cactaceae. And using the same brush that I just used to apply Dragantini, which is the DF04, I'm picking up Hylocereus, and I'm just going to pop this on the outer V. And for the lower lash line, I'm taking Refresh on my DF02 brush, which is a little bit big for the lower lash line, but I kind of like the blended effect that you get when using a more kind of dense blending brush, if you will. I'm just going to pop that right underneath and stop about halfway. So I have Dragonfly on my DF04, this is just one that I wiped off, and it's that beautiful glow stick green metallic, and I'm just going to pop this on the inner kind of third of my lower lash line. I am going to go pop on some eyeliner, some lashes, and we will meet back here in just a moment. Is the finished look. I just popped a bit of Tropico on the inner corner and on my brow bone, and it is also my highlight as well. I wear it all the time, but I really like how this look turned out. We get a little bit of pink, we get a little bit of green, and I think it's just a fun look that really represents dragon fruits. So this is the second look for the 3 looks 1 palette video. So today we're going for a more peachy and green type of scenario. I wanted to use the bottom row of shadows to show how you can really pair together 2 color stories that might not necessarily seem like they work. I mean, peach and green, they're almost opposites, but honestly, they work together really, really nicely. So I am picking up Effervescent on my DF03 brush, that beautiful flat paddle brush. And I am going to apply this just on the inner third of my lid. This is like the most amazing multichromatic topper shade. This is like the most beautiful peachy multichromatic Bellini color. It's like an icy peach with all these beautiful multichromatic rainbow sparkles. And we are going to apply that on the inner third. So just like so. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to go for a more structured look today or what I'm really gonna be going for, but we will just kind of roll with it. So just popping this on the inner third of my lid, and I did spritz the brush down 1 time. I don't have any glitter glue down, I just have some eyeshadow base. I use the P. Louise Rumor 00, the white base, but I shear it out quite a bit. I just use the tiniest little amount, and I don't set my base either. This is one of the big pans in the palette because we wanted to include 2 topper shades that you could use as highlighters as well and use over top of the other colors. Because they're more sheer, you'll probably use a bit more product, so that's why we wanted to make them bigger. And plus, tell me you don't want this on your cheekbones, right? It's like an icy peach with all these beautiful shimmers, and it's not too incredibly sparkly. It's more of a multichromatic glimmer, if you will. It's very, very fine, and it's really, really smooth. And you can definitely use that as a highlighter as well or over top of the shadows. So we definitely wanted to include multi-use type product. Picking up Fruit Fizz on my DF04 brush, which is this really beautiful flat kind of shader brush that's really flexible because the bristles are nice and long. I'm gonna go ahead and take Fruit Fizz and apply it just right on the kind of center of the lid and just blend it together with Effervescent. Isn't Effervescent so pretty? Ugh, I love it so much. It's like my dream shadow. For a while I was like absolutely obsessed with like icy peaches, and I could not find one that was like peachy while still being really icy. It was either like golden peach, or it was just straight up peach, or it was too icy to the point where it didn't even look peach at all. So this is like a really nice blend of like a cool toned like Bellini peach. But I digress. Let's go ahead and pop on Fruit Fizz to the center of the lid. I know I went a little crazy with Effervescent. I meant to only place it like right in the inner third. Yeah, I went a little crazy with it, but it's okay. And I forgot to mention this, but Fruit Fizz is a duochromatic formula, and it is a golden and peach and lime shifting shade, and you can really see the peach to lime shift. It is really, really strong. It is beautiful. But I am picking up my DF05, which is that really, really tiny blender brush that's a little bit domed as well. It's like perfect for getting right in the crease and for creating more abstract shapes with your shadow. I am picking up Dragonfly, which is that really pretty, like cool toned kind of glow stick leafy green metallic. It's bright, but it's not too intense. It's not neon by any means, and that's why I love it. It's more subtle, even though it is a bright kind of cool toned leaf green, if you will. But let's go ahead and just kind of shape out the outer V. I'm gonna basically bring it to like a point, I think. I want to go for something kind of fun. Dang it, this eye turned out exactly how I wanted, and this one turned out all sorts of crazy. Don't you hate when that happens? So for the lower lash line, I'm picking up Cactaceae on my DF05 brush that I just wiped off, and I'm just going to drag it about halfway. This is that beautiful velvet satin formula, so it's not quite a matte, but it's almost a matte, and it is a really gorgeous like chartreuse green with like a touch of yellow. The overall tone is kind of softer. It's not super bright and intense. It's definitely bright, but it's not neon, like I said, like with Dragonfly. They're both kind of softer greens, but they're still colorful, if that makes sense. They're just not like 80s neon in your face like pastel. They're very wearable in my opinion. I mean, all shadows are wearable because literally you can wear whatever shadow you want, so that term doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but they're very like friendly kind of day-to-day colorful shadows, if that makes sense. And to finish up this lower lash line, I'm taking Strawberry Pear, which is another velvet satin. It's this beautiful like corally pinky peach on my DF02 brush, which is this kind of more domed like packer brush that you can use in the crease to pack on shadow, and it also blends because it's more of a rounded packer brush. And I'm gonna pop it just right on like the inner kind of third of the lower lash line. Sorry, I didn't want to like poke myself in the eye there. And because I'm using this kind of domed blender brush that's a little bit more dense, I'm going to get a more blended effect without having to really blend it. You see how I like placed it down and it basically blended itself? Okay, so let's go ahead and pop on some eyeliner, some lashes, and we'll meet back here to discuss the final look. I am back with liner and lashes on, and this is the finished look. Okay, another day, another tutorial, and this is probably going to be the most simplistic of the three. This is kind of more so along the lines of what I would do in my day-to-day basis. I tend to wear like one or two eyeshadows and then kind of call it a day. I'm not like, layering every single color up in the palette and wearing that all the time. It's fun to experiment and it's fun to have a more extra look every now and again, but I just like kind of more simple things. Although the colors of this look is not going to be simple by any means, but I digress. Let's go ahead and get started. So I am taking my DF03 brush, of course I am, like say it with me at this point, and I'm going to be hopping into Prickly, which is that beautiful deep like rich grape tone, and this is a velvet satin formula. Deep purples like this can definitely be intimidating, like especially just going straight onto the lid with a deep purple without putting any other color down to really blend it into, but because it's a velvet satin formula, it blends really beautifully, and it blends out to be a little bit lighter than it looks in the pan, just depending on how much you want to blend it. If you just pop it onto the lid, it's going to be darker, and if you blend it, it gets a little bit lighter and a little bit more kind of grapey, if you will. But I'm going to go ahead and just place this into the crease. You know, it's like scary going in with a dark color like this, like with no like other colors to blend it into, no lighter shade to place down as insurance, if you will, just in case you mess up and you need to blend it into something else. The velvet satin formula is very trusty in my opinion, so I have full confidence that it will be okay. Same thing on the other eye, and as you can see, like you saw that in real time, there's like no fallout happening under here. Now I use an eyeshadow base, but I don't set it, but I don't put like a lot of eyeshadow base, I just do a really thin layer. And I find that I don't really get a whole lot of fallout really, maybe just a sparkle here and there with some of the topper shades, but it's nothing crazy by any means, and fallout is one of my pet peeves when it comes to eyeshadow. Like back in the day, I feel like every eyeshadow had so much fallout, and we've really progressed past shadows that have like a whole bunch of fallout. But back in the day, like when we all first started getting into makeup, or at least when I did back in like 2016, 2015, oh my god, I would get fallout under my eyes and I would clean it up, but not very well, which is my own fault. But and I would end up leaving the house, look in the mirror outside somewhere, look in a window reflection and be like, oh my god, I left the house like this. I look like I have raccoon eyes. It's just a mess, just a gigantic mess. So now I'm picking up DF01, which is that kind of longer domed fluffy blending brush. And I'm basically going to just blend just a little bit just to get the edges nice and smooth. And I have heard like all over the beauty community, like since the beginning of when I first started watching YouTube videos, that purples are hard to formulate and hard to get smooth and right, and they always end up like patchy, and just purples can be tricky. And Prickly is really forgiving and easy to work with because it's the velvet satin formula. Dude, I cannot wait until those of you who are interested in getting the collection and the palette get the palette and actually test out the velvet satins so you can see what I'm talking about. I know it sounds like I'm just sitting here like talking them up, but they're absolutely incredible, and you'll see what I'm talking about when you try them for yourself. They're just like so smooth. It's actually nuts. But as you can see, Prickly started out pretty darn deep, but because I blended it, it turned out more like a mid-toned grape, which I absolutely love. So on the same brush, this is a clean one because I didn't want to cross-contaminate too much, but on my DF03 brush, I'm going to go ahead and pick up Infusion, and I wet the brush a little bit. I'm going to basically place Infusion right where I didn't place Prickly earlier. I don't know if you guys know Flower Garden from Yoshi's Island, but that is the song that I've had playing in my head for like 6 hours today. So just building up Infusion a little bit. It's this absolutely gorgeous, like multi-chromatic, iridescent, shimmery shade. It's like a pinky lilac color, and it has a bit of a golden shift as well, but you really see the kind of hot pink. And it also has some teal shimmers that you can really only see in the sunlight. It is so multi-dimensional in the sunlight. It's like absolutely gorgeous. And I think to connect the outer V to the lid, I'll take a little bit of Hylo Serious, which is that beautiful duochrome. It's like a raisin duochrome, kind of a maroon, if you will, that has this beautiful copper shift. See, it's a bit more sheer, so it's really good for what I want to basically do right now, which is put down something to like bridge the two colors together that isn't going to be too incredibly like bright, because clearly I'm going in with a more raisin tone and this is a more purple look. So it shears out really nicely. I'm just applying a little tiny amount. The more you build it up, obviously the more raisiny and kind of maroonish it's going to be. But because of how I'm applying it, it's going to shear out a bit and kind of act almost like a little purple tinted translucent situation just to bridge the two together. So with my DF02 brush, I am picking up Prickly again, just a little bit, not too much on the brush. And I'm just going to go right underneath the lower lash line and stop about halfway. This is typically what I do for the lower lash line. I usually do like one color on the outside, one color on the inner half, and I don't really venture out much more than that, to be honest. So on my DF04 brush, I am picking up Infusion again, and I'm just going to pop it right underneath, kind of where the blank space is, kind of on the inner third on my lower lash line. I'm not going all the way into the inner corner. We're going to put a different color in there. So using the same brush, the DF04, I am picking up Bubbles, which is that beautiful topper shade that's in the palette. It's not the one that we used earlier, it's the other topper shade, the more cool toned one. So you have two options. One is definitely more icy and one is more kind of warm and peachy. And it is such a beautiful shade. It has like all these different multichromatic shimmers in it. It looks predominantly teal, but you definitely see the kind of peach and platinum and kind of golden reflex that are in it in the sunlight and under certain lights as well. But I am taking Bubbles and I'm just going to brighten up the inner corner and make it like shine to the gods, make it bling. We have a special visitor. Ruby, look at the camera. Boo. Hello. Okay, we are having a very grape themed moment here, but I'm gonna go ahead and pop on some liner, some lashes, and we will touch back in just a moment. And here is the finished look. Okay guys, that is going to be wrapping up this 3 looks 1 palette video. I really hope that you enjoyed watching and seeing the Dragon Fruit palette in action. I am so incredibly excited for it to launch and to see the looks that you guys create and just to see everybody's creativity using this color scheme. It seems like a lot of you guys out there are really excited for this collection and that just makes me so incredibly happy. I really hope that you guys enjoy it and I cannot wait to hear your guys' thoughts about it if you choose to pick it up. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hop on out of here. So if you are interested in seeing more dragon fruit themed content, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And if you enjoyed today's video and found it helpful, I would love it if you gave me a big old thumbs up. But I hope that you are having an absolutely amazing and beautiful day wherever you are. And thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope to see you next time. Bye!